You're sitting in your warm house right now, maybe scrolling through this video on your phone, and you have no idea that everything could go dark in the next 10 minutes. Not a power flicker, not a brief outage, complete darkness. No heat, temperatures dropping. And here's what terrifies me most. Hypothermia can set in about 10 minutes when temperatures hit 30 below zero. But you don't need Arctic conditions to die from the cold. In 2023 alone, over 1,000 Americans died from hypothermia, and most of them were sitting inside their own homes when it happened. The question is, unteeth, the grid will fail during the next winter storm at S. Whether you know what to do when your thermostat goes silent and your breath starts forming clouds in your living room. February 2021. Texas. The power went out for millions. And what happened next reveals everything you need to know about surviving when civilization's most basic service just stops. More than 4.5 million homes lost power, some for several days, and at least 246 people died. But here's the part that should keep you up at night. The grid came within 4 minutes and 37 seconds of complete failure collapse that would have taken weeks to restore. 4 minutes. That's how close an entire state came to descending into something that would have made those few days of rolling blackouts look like a minor inconvenience. Now, before you think that's Texas, that won't happen here. Consider this. Texas had been warned about exactly this scenario in 2011, after a previous winter storm caused similar failures. They ignored the recommendations because winterizing the system was expensive. Your state probably made the same calculation. But let's talk about what actually kills people when the power dies in winter, because it's not what you'd expect. Most people imagine freezing to death means you slowly drift off to sleep in the snow. Reality is far more disturbing. Between 20 and 50% of hypothermia deaths involve something called paradoxical undressing, where victims become so confused they start stripping off their clothes, convinced they're overheating even as they freeze. Search and rescue teams are trained to expect this. It's why people are sometimes found dead in the snow, half naked, looking like they were attacked when they were really just killing themselves through their own confusion. Your body temperature right now is sitting at a comfortable 98.6 degrees. When it drops below 95 degrees, you're hypothermic. That's only a 3.5 degree difference between normal and medical emergency. Think about how quickly your house cools down when the heat cuts off on a winter night. Now imagine no heat for hours. 4 days. At 82 degrees Fahrenheit, you lose consciousness. Below 70 degrees, death can occur. Your body isn't just cold at this point. Your brain is shutting down. Your brain is shutting down. Your organs are giving up. Here's what makes a winter blackout uniquely dangerous. It's not just one system failing. When the Texas grid collapsed, it triggered something experts call cascading failures. No electricity meant natural gas systems froze. Frozen gas meant power plants couldn't restart. No power meant water treatment facilities failed. No water meant people couldn't flush toilets, couldn't drink, couldn't cook. Frozen pipes burst, leaving many without water even after power returned. People died from carbon monoxide poisoning trying to heat their homes with grills and generators inside. Others died in house fires from makeshift heating solutions. The 11-year-old boy who froze to death in Conroe wasn't outside. He was in his own home, where the temperature dropped to 12 degrees after 2 days without power. So what do you actually do? Because right now, you're probably thinking about buying a generator or stocking up on firewood. And those might help, but they're not the first line of defense most people need. The critical window is the first 6 hours. This is where most people make fatal mistakes because they re-still in the mindset that power will return any minute. Step 1 happens before the power goes out. Pick your survival room, not your living room, not your bedroom. You need the smallest room in your house that you can completely seal off, ideally an interior room with no windows. Bathrooms often work best. Why? Body warmth stays near occupants in smaller spaces. A family of 4 can keep a small bathroom above 50 degrees with nothing but body heat and good insulation. But they'll lose the battle trying to heat a 15 by 20 living room. Second, you need layers, and you probably have the wrong ones. Cotton kills in cold weather because when it gets wet from sweat, and you will sweat even in the cold, it loses all insulating properties. You need synthetic base layers or wool next to your skin, then insulating layers like fleece, then a final windproof layer. Your head is critical. You lose up to 40% of body heat through an uncovered head, so sleep in a hat. Always. Third, the hydration and fuel paradox that nobody talks about. It's essential to keep a hypothermic person adequately hydrated and fueled. Your body burns massive amounts of calories generating heat through shivering. We're talking thousands of extra calories per day. But here's the trap. If you eat your emergency food too quickly in the first days, you'll have nothing left when rescue or power restoration takes longer than expected. And you need water, but melting snow or ice without power requires fuel you might not have. This is why preparedness isn't just about having supplies, it's about rationing them properly when you do untie. Know if this outage will last 6 hours or 6 days. The psychological component is what breaks most people. When that Texas blackout hit, people watched their phones die. Their last connection to information and hope, and many made desperate decisions. They ran their cars and garages for heat and died of carbon monoxide poisoning. They used charcoal grills indoors. They left their homes to seek warmth and got lost in conditions where frostbite can damage exposed skin in a matter of minutes. The rule is brutally simple. Stay put unless you have a verified safe destination within walking distance. Your cold house is almost always safer than the journey through a winter storm. But here's what might save your life. Understanding that if a person is shivering, they have the ability to re-warm themselves at a rate of 2 degrees Celsius per hour. Shivering is your body's emergency heating system. It's exhausting and uncomfortable, but it's working. The danger point is when shivering stops, not because you've warmed up, but because your body has run out of fuel and given up. This is when people die in their sleep, quietly, without drama. The Texas disaster taught us one more crucial lesson that applies everywhere. Damages from the cold wave and winter storm were estimated to be at least $195 billion. Think about what that number means for recovery time. It means even after power returns, supply chains are devastated. Stores are empty. Gas stations can't pump fuel. Hospitals are overwhelmed. The blackout itself might last days, but the aftermath can last weeks. Your survival kit shouldn't be a pile of expensive gear in the garage. It should be a layered system you can grab in 60 seconds when the power cuts off. Multiple flashlights with backup batteries in your survival room. A week of water 1 gallon per person per day minimum. High-calorie no-cook foods like nuts, protein bars, peanut butter. Mylar emergency blankets because they reflect up to 90% of body heat back at you. A battery-powered or hand-crank radio for information. And critically, a plan everyone in your household knows without having to discuss it in the dark. The next major winter storm isn't a question of ifs when power grids are aging, extreme weather is intensifying, and the infrastructure wasn't built for the climate we're facing now. When your screen goes dark and the heat cuts off, you'll have a choice: panic and make potentially fatal decisions, or execute a plan you practiced when the lights were still on. Those first 10 minutes of decision-making can determine whether you uncomfortable for a few days or whether you become another statistic in next year's hypothermia death count. The people who died in Texas were unprepared because they were careless. They were unprepared because they never imagined it could happen to them. Don't let that be your story.